The atmosphere shifted the moment the story surfaced. What began as quiet speculation quickly turned into a wave of shock spreading across fan communities worldwide. A single image, a subtle gesture, and an unexpected decision ignited questions no one was prepared to answer. And at the center of it all was one moment that changed everything: Shen Yue returning an engagement ring. The news didn't arrive with an official announcement. There were no formal statements, no prepared explanations. Instead, it appeared through fragments, a sighting, a conversation, a reaction captured just long enough to spark global curiosity. Fans across the United States, Europe, Asia, Canada, and Australia began piecing together clues, trying to understand what had really happened behind the scenes. Those who witnessed the moment described an atmosphere heavy with emotion. There was tension, hesitation, and something deeper that words alone couldn't fully explain. The ring itself became a symbol, not just of commitment, but of a decision that seemed to carry enormous weight. And as the story spread, one question echoed across platforms everywhere. Why did Shen Yue return it? The answer, it seemed, was far more complicated than anyone expected. Sources close to the situation described a turning point, a moment where personal feelings, public expectations, and unresolved tensions collided. Observers noticed a change in demeanor, a quiet seriousness replacing the warmth fans had grown familiar with. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It was controlled, and that control made it even more powerful. But what truly intensified the story was the reaction that followed. Because the moment the ring was returned, attention shifted instantly to two names: Wang and Wei. What had once been separate narratives suddenly converged into a single unfolding drama that fans couldn't stop watching. Wang appeared composed on the surface, yet observers noticed subtle details: a pause before responding to questions, a carefully measured expression, a silence that spoke louder than any statement could. It was the kind of reaction that invited interpretation. Fans replayed every clip, every glance, every moment, searching for meaning hidden between expressions. Meanwhile, Wei entered the conversation through a different energy entirely. Reports suggested determination, intensity, and an undeniable emotional presence surrounding the unfolding situation. Though no direct confrontation occurred publicly, the contrast between their responses created a narrative that felt larger than reality itself. And at the center of this emotional storm stood Shen Yue, calm, resolute, and unexpectedly firm in her decision. The symbolism of returning the ring resonated deeply with fans. Some interpreted it as closure. Others believed it signaled a shift in priorities. Many saw it as an act of independence, a choice to redefine expectations rather than follow them. Regardless of interpretation, the moment carried a sense of finality that could not be ignored. Online communities ignited instantly. Discussions spread across languages and continents, each interpretation adding another layer to the unfolding narrative. Some viewers focused on emotional nuance. Others analyzed timing, context, and possible motivations. Theories multiplied rapidly, transforming the story into a global conversation about choice, loyalty, and personal strength. But what captivated audiences most was the subtle tension between presence and absence. No dramatic confrontation had occurred publicly. No words of conflict had been spoken openly. Yet the emotional weight felt undeniable, as if a deeper story existed just beyond what could be seen. Observers described moments where silence itself became the most powerful statement. A glance held slightly too long. A response delivered with measured calm. A composure that hinted at inner conflict without revealing it fully. These small details fueled speculation more than any dramatic reveal could. Fans began revisiting past interactions, searching for signs they might have missed. Old interviews gained new interpretations. Casual exchanges were analyzed with renewed attention. What once seemed ordinary now appeared layered with meaning, as if the present moment had rewritten the significance of everything that came before it. The narrative evolved beyond a single event. It became a story about choice under scrutiny, emotion within visibility, and the complexity of navigating personal decisions while the world watches. Each perspective offered by fans revealed how deeply the moment resonated across cultures. For many viewers, the situation reflected a universal truth, that strength is often quiet, and decisions that appear simple on the surface can carry profound emotional consequences. That perspective transformed curiosity into empathy. It was no longer just about what happened. It was about understanding why. And still, the tension between Dylan Wang and Miles Wei remained an unspoken focal point. Not because of explicit conflict, but because their presence represented two different emotional responses to the same turning point. One measured and composed, the other intense and resolute. Together, they created a contrast that amplified the drama without a single direct confrontation. Media coverage intensified as the story continued spreading. Analysts noted how rare it was for a moment so understated to generate such widespread engagement. There were no dramatic scenes, no public disputes, no direct explanations, and yet audiences remained captivated. The power of the narrative lay in implication rather than revelation. As days passed, reactions shifted from shock to reflection. Fans began discussing themes beyond celebrity relationships: independence, respect, personal growth, and the courage required to make difficult choices publicly. The story had transformed into something larger than entertainment. It had become symbolic. And yet, despite the extensive discussion, one crucial element remained unchanged: uncertainty.
No definitive explanation emerged.
No complete narrative replaced speculation. The absence of clarity became part of the story itself, leaving space for interpretation, debate, and continued fascination. The emotional impact lingered because it felt unfinished. Not unresolved in a chaotic sense, but open-ended in a way that invited ongoing reflection. It was a moment suspended between past expectations and future possibilities. Fans around the world continued sharing reactions, each perspective adding another dimension to the collective experience. Some described the decision as empowering. Others viewed it as bittersweet. Many simply expressed admiration for the composure displayed under intense attention. The quiet power of the moment became its defining characteristic. It didn't demand attention through spectacle. It commanded attention through meaning. And as discussions continued, one realization became clear. The story was not about rivalry or resolution alone. It was about transformation, a shift in narrative shaped by choice rather than circumstance. The returned ring remained the symbol that started it all. A small object carrying enormous significance. A gesture simple in action, yet profound in implication. A decision that reshaped perceptions and sparked a global conversation that continues to unfold. As audiences revisit the moment again and again, searching for clarity within subtlety, one truth stands out unmistakably. Some turning points are not defined by what is said, but by what is chosen. And somewhere between silence and speculation, the story remains alive, evolving with every interpretation, every discussion, every viewer trying to understand the emotions behind the moment. Because what happened was not just an event. It was a revelation of perspective, resilience, and the quiet strength to define one's own path, even when the world is watching. And whether answers come soon or remain unspoken, one certainty remains. Fans everywhere will continue watching closely, knowing that the next chapter, whenever it arrives, could change everything once again.